Hello, it's Lane here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing another manga review. Today we're going to be looking at Bleach, the Hueco Mundo sneak entry arc, which is chapters 230 to 251. And it's actually not really that good of an arc. Like, it's not really an arc. It's just like, I looked up a list, and that was the divisions that were set up. But honestly, halfway through this, batch of chapters was a much better end to, like, the first part of the story, and then halfway through we also is when we actually get into sneaking into Hueco Mundo. So if I were to redo this in a different way, I would have done it as like whatever I did last time plus the first 10 chapters of this, and then the next section would have been the second 10 chapters plus whatever else there's to read next. But I chose this list, so I'm gonna stick to it. And so it's going to be kind of weird. Like, the divisions are not really that great, but it is what it is. The author here is Tite Kubo. The publisher is Viz. The demographic is Shonen. Obviously, it's a Shonen Jump title. It is one of the Shonen Jump titles. It's part of the big three. And the genres here are urban fantasy, supernatural, just kind of like battle shonen. Again, that's not really a genre, but like the title itself can be used like a genre. Like, people understand what that means. So, it's just like an action series with urban fantasy elements, with supernatural elements, and lots of cool action. So, yeah, it also has an adaptation, obviously, and the 1,000-Year Blood War arc just got adapted into anime last season or the season before that, and I think there's a lot of anime left for that, so it's a good time to be a Bleach fan, honestly. Get caught up with that stuff, and then you'll probably be able to get around to seeing whatever else Tite Kubo does afterwards, because I'm pretty sure there's like a rumored new arc for Bleach, but I'm not sure if that's the case or not. And the premise here is that Orihime is taken by Ukiura, and so it's time to go to Hueco Mundo, and so Ichigo is initially going to go by himself, but Uryu and Chad set out with him, and eventually Renji and Rukia meet them there, and they sneak into Hueco Mundo, very similar to the way that they snuck into Soul Society. In fact, it's almost identical, but the crew dynamics slightly different, right? So let's get into the plotline here. It starts over with Ukitake overwatching Orihime's training, because if you guys remember at the end of the last section of the story, Orihime basically is told, hey, you're not a frontline fighter, you don't really need to be here, please go home and, do other stuff, right? But Orihime isn't really happy with this, and so eventually Rukia comes around to talk to her, and Rukia says, you know what, you're strong, you don't really need to listen to them, let's go training ourselves, and we'll develop your powers some other way. And we also get a bit of exposition about how the Soul Society is faring with the bunch of captains and captain-level people that left the Serete when they moved on to being part of Aizen's group over in Hueco Mundo. And, nothing really too important, but, it's not the best. And stuff is hard for some of the people that are now having to take charge of situations, right? So it is what it is. Then we go back to Earth, where the Espadas are showing up early, I think a few months earlier than they were supposed to, because they had decided they had figured out that the time when the Espadas would be coming back would be sometime in winter. It's still not winter, and they've already shown up, so it's kind of a problem. There's a few quick battles here that happen all around. There's this character, Lupi, who fights against the four Soul Society people that are on Earth right now. And Grimjow is like, the person I want to kill is not here, so I'm going to go away. And he goes looking for Ichigo. Then Ichigo and Grimjow have another quick battle. Rukia shows up. She gets pummeled. And then Shinji has to show up at the end in order to step in and stop Grimjow from, doing this. And Grimjow is actually very surprised at the fact that visors exist, which, like, I guess if no one told you, that's kind of surprising. But it's kind of stupid. Like, if you're a Hollow and you can access Soul Reaper powers, it's very possible, and honestly, it would be kind of stupid not to know or understand that there's probably some Soul Reaper that can also be a Hollow. You're living proof that things like this exist. So why are you surprised when they do, right? So I don't know. I think that's kind of weird, but also it's just kind of how it is. Grimjow and all of the espadas don't really get told anything that they don't exactly need to know by Aizen, so it makes sense, right? So it is what it is. Eventually, on the Soul Society side of things, Orihime is told to wait because a gate has to be opened. Eventually, the gate is opened, and Orihime walks through it, and she gets escorted by two goons, two losers, two unimportant Soul Society Soul Reapers. And, well, while she's passing through the gate, she gets taken by Ukiura, who kills both of her guards, and then takes her away with him. She basically gets abducted, and she's told, you have 12 hours to say goodbye to one person. After that, you're going to be part of our group, and you're going to do whatever Aizen says. Otherwise, we're going to kill everyone that you know and love, right? Which, of course, Orihime has to say yes to. And 12 hours later, she goes to Ichigo when he's asleep. She confesses her love for him, and then she leaves. And she tries to kiss him, but she's like, you know what? I really can't do this when you're not awake, so I'm just going to leave. There's also really good character moments here with Orihime. I don't really want to spoil them, but there's some really beautiful things that she says that work really, really nicely, honestly. Ichigo's dumb for not for not getting it on with Orihime quickly enough, man. Like, this chick is a very wonderful character, and Ichigo's just wasting his time, man. So, yeah, she has to go away, and then we move on to another situation where there's a Soul Society meeting where Ukitake is like, Orihime was taken, we don't know what happened, she probably died, and then, well, they're like trying to set up a rescue team. Yamamoto, the Commander General, which is a weird title. I don't understand what it means, but, you know, okay, the guy in charge, right? The top dude does some dumbass shit, and he says she probably was a willing participant in the issue, so we're just not going to save her, right? And, well, this riles Ichigo up, and, of course, he's like, nah, fuck you, I'm going to go get her. And Renji and everyone tries to calm him down, and then Renji's like, you know, I'm in charge of this expedition, please allow me to go retrieve her. And then he gets told no, but he was trying to help Ichigo, and it doesn't work. So they all get called back, and in order for them to actually do what they're told, Byakuya and, what's his name? Kenpachi show up to take them all back. And they tell Ichigo that he has to stay put. Ichigo, of course, is not going to stay put, and he's angry, and he goes back to school, and he has to deal with the fact that he's been gone for a month, and he's in a bad mood. He ends up confronting some of his friends, specifically Tatsuki, and I think she confronts him, and she gets mad at him, and she tells him that she knows what he's doing with his black robes, and he like tries to ignore her, and he's like, you guys just stay away from me. And, well, now Ichigo is ready to go into Hueco Mundo, and so Urahara opens Garganta for him. Garganta means throat, by the way, but it's a gateway into Hueco Mundo, okay, whatever. And Chad and Uryu show up to go, and Ichigo's like, no, you guys can't go with me, it's too dangerous, and you guys are not powerful enough. And, well, they show off that they're very powerful now because Chad like punches the shit out of Ichigo, and it's pretty good. So they join him, and they go to Hueco Mundo, and they have there's a moment after they go where all of their other friends were watching them deal with the situation, and Urahara is like, I knew you guys were there, but I let you guys know, let you guys do this so that you guys know what's going on. Which kind of works. I would really like to see if they're also going to be part of the situation, because the girl, the one that's friends with Orihime and that's been friends with Ichigo forever, she's a fighter. So she should have, like, she should be a meaningful part of the team, and I don't really understand why she's not. I mean, maybe it's a balance thing, I don't know, but, like, I feel like she was set up to be someone, and then she just hasn't gone around to having her moment. I would really like her to have one. And so Ichigo and Chad and Uryu end up in Hueco Mundo. They have to fight two kind of loser espadas, or sorry, not espadas, Arrancars, and they beat them. Then they end up out onto Hueco Mundo, which kind of looks like this like desert place. It kind of reminds me of like the Sonora Desert, like the northern part of it that you see in like New Mexico and Colorado and stuff like that kind of vibe in Arizona and stuff. And I thought it was cool, but I think it's more like alien. I think the colors don't really work. It's just sandy and it has like trees made out of quartz. But I would like to see what color it is, when it's painted, because I think it'd be interesting. But it kind of reminds me of like a desert that you would see in like the southern western part of the U.S. or the northern western part of Mexico. So it's kind of cool. And they fight some shit, and then they find Nell and her two brothers and their pet Bawa or something, Buga Bawa, something like that. Like, I don't know. It's just a sandworm. It's kind of like a creature from Dune. And well, they ride it and they go and they fight some sand demon, and then Rukia and Renji show up, which is really, really cool. And they have this really awesome situation where they're like, Ichigo, are we not your friends? Do you not trust us? And he's like, yeah, you guys are. And then then Rukia's like, well, never make us ask you this question again then. And it was really, really good. I think it's really interesting to see Ichigo kind of having a big head and having to deal with the fact that, hey, we all know that you're powerful and then you're badass and that you only have to train for a day to become stronger than before. But like, we also are strong and we also want to protect you and help you protect our friends. So please let us go with you and let us, interact with each other. And I liked that a lot. I thought it was really, really good. So yeah. And so they're finally inside the Las Noches, which is the what's it called? The base of operations, which honestly, cool name, but it just means the night. So, or like the nights. So it should have been something else. Like, you could have had like an actual word in Spanish that actually means like a place. Like, you could have had like the hacienda or la quinta or something like that. A place that, like, a word that actually means a place, instead of just kind of like a nebulous, the evening or something like that. I don't know. That's my one complaint with the Spanish usage of things, is that it's never actually translated in a way that makes sense. Like, there's a bunch of Arrancar and Espada attacks that just don't make sense. Like, there's one that's called like Uña Tiroteo or something like that, which means like nail, like Gatling shot or something like that. I don't know how to explain it. Like, a tiroteo is like a lot of guns being shot at once, right? So, and then it's translated into like claw wings, and it's like that's not what that means at all. And then one of Chad's attacks is called El Directo, which sounds cool in like without you knowing what it means, but it just means like direct. And Frankie from One Piece has a attack that is just called Strong Right. So I understand that you can have dumb names that sound cool, but it's translated as Giant's Swing or something like that, Giant's Arm. And it's like, El Directo does not mean that at all. Like, why would you not give it like a name that actually means that? Like Brazo Gigante or something like that, like Giant Arm, or Giant's Swing or something like that in Spanish. Like, how would I say Giant's Fist? Puño Gigante, or maybe Gigante Directo, like direct giant. Like, that would be kind of a little bit more in line with what he's actually doing, instead of like the stupid names that they give them. The translations, or the things that are in parentheses to explain what the word in Spanish is, doesn't really work, because it never is accurate, and it bothers me. But most people that read this probably don't know Spanish, so they don't give a shit. But it's just kind of annoying that happens, right? So yeah, eventually they get into Las Noches, and they have to split up into 5 teams, or into 5 different places. And they decide to do that and only have one person go in each group. And that's really stupid. Ichigo tells them this, but no one listens to him. So whatever. They do a prayer thing, and like basically just like a football team speech. And then they go on their way. And Nell catches up to Ichigo because she's sad that she's having fun with him and she doesn't want to let him go. Also, Nell's a very cute character. I like her a lot. And then they end up having to fight this guy called Don Dori, who was the 103rd Espada. And apparently he is a privaron Espada, which in Spanish, privaron means that they were deprived. So a person that was deprived of their title, right? So that makes sense. But the conjugation of that word is not correct for like the usage there, right? But I think that was because, like, if you say espada privada, it means like private sword, and maybe that's not exactly what they were going for. But there's better ways of wording things, and that's really my one problem. I hope that, you know, at some point Tite Kubo is like, okay, we're going to go back and we're going to fix this and make it make sense. And then eventually they do like a Kanzenban release of Bleach, and honestly of all of the big three, and just give it like a better translation, because a lot of these Spanish words that are used sound cool without the context of what they mean, but they would be much cooler if they actually made sense within the context of what they mean in Spanish, right? So maybe that's just a me issue, and I definitely can, you know, understand that if that's the case. But I just think it would have been way cooler if the Spanish was actually used correctly, right? So it is what it is, but that's fine. Moving on to characters. Uryu, Chad, and Orihime have really awesome growth this part of the story. Very cool stuff. Renshi and Rukia have 2 moments that are really, really great. And then there's a lot of cool characters that are introduced, a lot of Arrancars. We get Nell and Porsche, or Pesk. I don't know. His name is like Fish. And then Don Chaka or something like that. And Dandori, of course. All of them are cool. Lupi is also cool. There's a lot of interesting Arrancars that are, you know, shown. Again, I hate all of their names. They're all horrible names, but everything else about them is really, really cool. And the Privara and Espadas are interesting. And, of course, Nell is also a really great character. She's kind of like an Anya or a Grogu, or, you know, just a young kid that is friendly with our main character, that I really like and enjoy. And it's a cool kind of character archetype, and I enjoy Nell specifically. She's very cute. And yeah, so world building wise, we get introduced to Hueco Mundo, of course. We already knew what it was, but this is the first time we see it. We understand a little bit about the Quincy Soul Reaper relationships, specifically between Uryu and Ichigo's dads. I don't know why those two are connected in some way. It's not very clear, but I think it has to do with Ichigo's mom, probably. That would make sense to me. And we get to see a little bit more of the Hollows hierarchy. You know, there's Aizen, then there's the 3 Soul Reapers that work with them, and then there's the Espadas, and then the Privara and Espadas, then the rest of the Arrancars, right? So it is what it is. Pretty interesting. It's cool. And we also get to learn a little bit about Orihime's powers. They are not just healing powers. They're actually phenomenon rejection powers, which means that anything that exists, she can choose to make it not exist, and so she rejects its notion, and so she can remove it. So that's how she heals things. She doesn't really heal, she just rejects the injury, and so that forces the person to heal their body by removing the impairment, basically, which is really, really cool. In terms of art and fan service, the art is amazing. Honestly, every time that I read Bleach, every time I feel like the art just gets better and better, and I think Tite Kubo's real strong suit is honestly how he makes his characters just look really, really cool. His character design, his character posing, and the outfits that he gives all of his characters are just really, really badass. His action is okay. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Generally speaking, there's just really, really cool shots that happen while it's happening, but it doesn't really convey emotion that well, if that makes sense. And fan service wise, I don't think there was any fan service in this little 20 chapter section of the story, so that's fine. In terms of a rating, this is a 4.5 out of 5. It was basically almost perfect. I enjoyed, you know, the whole hour and a half that I spent reading this, and it was really, really good. It was a little bit better than the first part because we finally got somewhere and it wasn't just training, and I liked that a lot. However, I do feel like this arc shouldn't really exist. Like, it shouldn't be called or counted as an arc. It's more like the transition phase between 2 arcs, and it doesn't really, like, whoever made this list needs to fix that, because that's not a good indicative indicator of like where arcs start and end. And honestly, halfway through this arc could have been the ending of the first part of the Arrancar saga and the beginning of the second part, and that would have been much better. But, you know, it is what it is. It really doesn't have anything to do with my rating. It's just how, like, I structured the videos, and the fact that I think I wasn't able to structure them correctly because I was following this list. And it kind of sucks, right? But, you know, it is what it is. It's fine. So that's really all I have to say about Bleach. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know your thought. And thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.